Hey everybody, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Or if this is your first time here, welcome to Gideon Stuff. Regardless, today we're going to be taking a look at this guy here. This is the Steel Will Modus. This is a really cool little pocket knife, and I'm really excited to talk about him. Got a little bit of gunk there. It makes sense, though I did carry this guy quite a bit. But more on that later. For now, let's jump right into our size comparisons. Here he is against the Rat Model 1 and the Model 2, as always. And so, yeah, kind of an in-between size there between the Rat 1 and 2, as a lot of knives are, actually. Next up, let's bring out some more competitors in this type of price range. Here's the Civivi Elementum and the Civivi Praxis. So, a little bit bigger than the Elementum, quite a bit smaller than the Praxis. Next up, let's get our PM2. And our Bug Out. So actually what you can see here is it's pretty much Bug Out size. Yeah, pretty much. In length, it's a little bit taller than the Bug Out, but lengthwise, it's pretty darn close. And let's bring out last and certainly least our Gerber Paraframes. There's the mini, and here's a regular. So a little bit bigger than the regular Paraframe. Alrighty. So, what are we looking at in terms of actual size? Blade length, we're looking at, just a hair over 3.2 inches. So, yeah, just a hair. Handle, we're looking at, let's get it right there. We'll call that 4.3. So this guy is about what did we say the blade was? About 7.6 inches. So pretty good EDC size. That's right where I like my EDC knives to be. And this is a great EDC knife. I'm going to spoil the rest of the review. If you're not going to watch the rest of the review, which I highly recommend you do, by the way, this is a great EDC knife. It really is. In just about every way imaginable, this is a good EDC knife. And what's more, is I think it's a good EDC knife for everyone. And I do mean everyone. Regardless of the scenario, no matter what your EDC needs are, where you live, what your job is, I think this will be a great EDC knife for just about anyone. So, I'm not going to say anything else. Let's go right into the cutting demonstrations. And actually, for this review, instead of like my usual cardboard cutting demonstrations, I actually decided to film myself, in the use of this guy, while I was using him every day. While I was carrying this guy, I carried him here around the apartment, and then I went up and I visited my parents up on the ranch, and I did some videos up there of me messing around, doing my stuff. So yeah, there will be a little more in depth into the whole use of this guy than there might normally be, but I think you'll really enjoy it. So I'll let you go ahead and get on to it. You all want a piece, huh? Go get some more apples. Hey, knock it off, dog. Baling twine, the most useful thing since duct tape. Or I guess actually, this came before duct tape, so potato, potato. And we might as well, whoa. There we go. We might as well do some woodwork of some kind. Although you can't see this at all. Do some reverse, we'll do like this. Some very soft pine. And we'll do that for now. Now I think it's time to take this guy inside and clean him up, sharpen him a little bit because it's getting pretty late and he's taking a beating for today. Really impressed though. Great user. No complaints whatsoever. After a full day, the action's still good. It's come a little tiny bit off center. Okay. But yeah, that is a dirty, dirty knife. You know what I hate more than anything? Refilming videos. I got a new microwave. I filmed me doing the, opening it up and cutting the box apart for recycling using the Steel Will Modus, and footage went bye-bye. So, luckily I didn't cut up the whole box yet, so we're just gonna get right back to that. I'm gonna have to re-say everything I already said. Oh well, what you gonna do, right? Okay, so before we do get started, cutting up the cardboard again, let's talk a little bit about the carry on this guy. The clip, it's not the best thing ever. It's not terrible though. It does have a pretty standard 3-hole pattern, so you'll be able to find a replacement clip pretty easily. It goes in and comes out of the pocket just fine. No problems there. So, pretty happy with that. You've got a little bit sticking out. Bright colors on most of these, so, it's not going to be super discreet, but it's okay. In the 5th pocket today, by the way, CJRB Mylea. This is an awesome little knife. And review of this will be coming up soon. But this video is not about this guy. I'm sorry, I got carried away playing with him. It's very, very, very fidgety. Let's go ahead and cut up some cardboard. Had that whole microwave. Did the unboxing of the microwave, cut all the tape, and started taking the box apart. Lost all the footage. Stuff like that makes me so mad. Alright, so we do have a little bit of tape here. There's also staples. So I think we can just push this one out. Trash bag. I missed. I'll say that here in a sec. Very slicey, very, very slicey. And we can see here that it has a, excuse all the gunk, it has a very nice sheep's foot blade. The ergos are very good as well. Feels really nice in the hand. You've got this jimping up here that really locks you in. And the way the ergos kind of interact with the blade shape means that this knife is very, very well suited for those kind of thrusting cuts. Those kind of, you know, the ones where you're slicing on the push. So that's really nice for breaking down cardboard. Nice thin edge. Blade stock is not terribly thin, but it's not thick either. So that's really, really nice. Finger guard provided by the flipper. Very nice as well. Jimping's kind of back here, so, you know, catches your finger. Not really a forward choil. This is more of a sharpening choil, but I don't think this knife really needed a choil. Let's get the action up closer, little blaze. This piece has these big old staples in it. We're not going to cut towards the staples. Don't do that, people. Don't cut towards staples. It's not good for you or your knife. Handy dandy little holder there. See how I dodged the staple there? In fact, actually, let's just cut those staples off. So yeah, very nice and slicey. Great blade shape. In fact, utility cuts are also probably pretty good. We're not going to do any of those right now, but yeah. I'm not sure when I'll film the review section of this video. Maybe tomorrow, in a few days. But let's get this guy cleaned up and get back to the table, because that's what it's going to look like for you guys. Alright, so now you've seen the footage, the usage footage. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this guy a little more in depth. Before I go over what I like and what I don't like, I want to talk about the action a little bit. So this is a knife that's running on washers. It's a flipper, which you do not see very many flippers on washers these days, but yeah, it fires right out. And as you can tell from the usage videos, I've had this guy in some pretty dirty places. And I haven't cleaned him out yet. And this has been, I've been carrying him and using him pretty consistently for, oh heck, a good long while. I think it's been a month and a half, if not more. And yeah, the action is still very nice. And when I take him apart and I clean him up, which I'll do probably, heck, might even do it tonight, he will be even smoother than this. So, without further ado, let's jump into what I like and what I don't like about this knife. So, first off, what am I liking here? A lot, actually. A whole lot. Let's just... Excuse me, knocked over some knives over here off screen. I knock something over every video. Jeez. Anyways, let's start with this blade. So, we're looking at a nice sheep's foot blade. This is D2. It is as marked right there with Modus. And yeah, you can already see... you can really see there is some gunk in there, so... Yeah, like I was saying. Just a very, very nice blade. Good sharpening choil. It's not a finger choil. I don't think this knife does need a finger choil. The cut jack, which is very similar to this knife, it has a big finger choil. So, if you're really, really into finger choils, you might want to go for that. But I do think that this knife has some advantages over the cut jack. Jimping up here, very nice. You can get a really good grip there. So, love that. You have a flat grind, or I guess you call this a saber grind because it has like this unground portion on the top, but flat grind, pretty decently thick blade stock actually. Let's bring out the Rat 1, and actually we'll flip them this way. And what you can see is, yeah, the Modus, it has pretty thick blade, but it's actually not too thick. It's strong, but it doesn't get in the way of the slicing, and that might be because of the flat grind, but it's very nice. By the way, the edge, nice and thin. Gotta love that. Very, very good for slicing. And you have a pretty strong tip there. So I like that stuff a lot. Sheep's foot blades in particular are really great users. You have pretty much continuous belly, so slicing is really good. Utility cuts, you on most sheep's foot you have a spot to put your hand up there or your finger. Utility cuts, you can do them. I mean, they're not as great as a straight Warncliffe, but definitely can do them. So that's very nice. As I talked about a little bit while I was cutting up that microwave box, still bothers me that I lost the original footage. Anyways, we're not going to talk about that. The way the knife fits in your hand really, really makes it good at push cuts, or those kind of downward thrusting cuts, which is really, really nice. And let's go ahead and talk about that next. The ergos. Yeah, this knife has great ergos. You do have kind of suggestions on where to put your fingers. For me, at least, they work just about perfectly. My hand fits very, very nicely. This area here, it gets a little bit fatter back here, and so that really helps in your palm. Just overall, very, very nice. Next up, the action. Yeah, it's good. It's really, really good. On these washers, it fires right out of there. Really, really nicely. The flipper tab itself is well shaped. I do kind of maybe wish there's jimping up here, but there's not. There's only jimping here, which for push button, it works. Push button isn't the best way to deploy this, actually. It does hurt a little bit, so light switching all day, every day. Scratch up my table. So that's good. Actually, one more thing I want to go back to on the blade that I forgot to mention is one of the great things about sheep's foot blades is that they're actually pretty easy to sharpen. So if you're like a beginner, I don't have any stones around here right now, but let's grab this Spyderco box for now. So pretend this is a sharpening stone. The way this blade is shaped is actually, kind of the way that most people naturally want to sharpen a knife. Kind of pull it down and go like that. For some, that's how most people sharpen a knife. And this blade is shaped exactly right for that, So that's something that I just kind of like, as opposed to like a Warncliffe, which in some cases are actually easier to sharpen because it's just basically a don't slide around box. It's basically just like this or like this, unless you want to try and get the point a little bit better. But for most people who, especially if you come out of Cub Scouts or something, and you're just looking for a knife, this is good because this kind of gives you your nice little cuts like that, or not cuts, but your strokes while you're sharpening. There's a joke hiding in there somewhere, but we're not going to find it. Hardware on this guy is actually minimal. This screw here, these screws here, T6s, yes, but you know what? It's okay. And now, actually, what I want to talk a little bit about is why I think this knife is a great knife for pretty much everyone. Because I think that's the greatest part about this knife, and it's something that I really, really do think is focus. Focus. Thank you. Jeez, camera's acting up today. But anyways, I do think that this is a knife for everyone. Let's start off. Blade length is under 3.5 inches. I know 3 inches is a cutoff in a lot of places as far as legality goes. 3.5 is also a cutoff, so this comes in under the 3.5 inch mark uncontroversially. So that's gonna be nice. Would it be better if it was 3 inches? Maybe. You might lose a little bit of your slicing. If it was a 3-inch blade, the handle might be shorter, which might affect the ergos, but it's not bad. What really makes this knife good for everyone, though, is a couple of things. So first, I just want to talk about, I'm a college student, and so I live in the city during the school semesters, and while carrying this knife, this doesn't tend to be a knife that send people running. Even though it is a flipper knife, it's not a, I don't know how to say it, but it's not a scary flip, which is a weird thing to say, but it's not. Another thing too is these knives all come in kind of goofy colors. You have this blue with this very bright green backspacer, and that's just kind of goofy. That's just kind of goofy. And it doesn't tend to scare people. I think the most serious color that this comes in is the gray FRN with the blue backspacer, but even that is kind of fun, kind of playful, and not typically something that people will look at and be like, oh my gosh, you're here to kill us. As opposed to something like, heck, this Civivi Dogma might be a little bit scary. What is going on with my camera and focusing today? Jeez. Put that aside. So I think that's really great. I really do think it's great. Another thing, well, we'll come back to colors later, but the handle scales too, they have this kind of funky looking pattern. And the pattern actually provides good, solid, grip when you're holding the knife, which is awesome. But it also kind of, again, gives this knife an almost goofy look that's not very threatening. I'll tell you one thing. If this pattern was on titanium, I would hate it. That would be so gross. But here, it kind of... This actually kind of reminds me of like those McDonald's play cases, that are at some McDonald's where, your kids go and mess around while you're waiting for the food or whatever. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of that. I guess this is the McKnife, not the Modus, the McModus. But, it's kind of playful. So this is a knife that's great in city carry because it won't scare a whole lot of people, at least in my experience. And again, it does the stuff that a knife is supposed to do. It's slicey, it's comfortable, it'll cut, and I mean, if you're in the urban EDC environment, there's nothing this knife can't do for you, really. Whether you're cutting an apple, breaking down a box, opening a package, cutting a string, this knife will do it for you, and it will do it with flying colors. So, this is also a knife that is great for what I'd like to call dirty use. Okay, so what do I mean by dirty use? Dirty use is like EDC meets hard use. and I'll explain that more as we go along. So, besides being a college student, I was raised, grew up on a cattle ranch. In the summer times, I go home and I help out on the family ranch, and I also work at another ranch. So I work in some dirty, dirty places. I work in a lot of places that are not very friendly towards knives that have bearings. The same thing that gives the Civivi Dogma this great action becomes a serious handicap when you're out working with a lot of dust and grime. And this knife here, since it's on washers, it doesn't have to deal with that. And as I said, I have not cleaned this knife out since I've been carrying it. And the action is still just crisp and good and, ugh, it's awesome. But that's not the only thing that makes this guy great for dirty use. You know, same with the Urban Carry. This is a great blade. You know, I've done some pretty hard use stuff with my knives, and I enjoy hard use knives. I really do. I like my hard use knives, but not everything I do requires something that's that big. You know, if you're just walking around the ranch, cutting up an apple for a horse or for goats, in the case of the video that you guys saw, or, you know, opening feed bags, heck, even breaking down cardboard or, you know, stuff like that, it's good to have a knife like this. You know, you're not always chopping or, you know, taking apart pallet crates and stuff like that. So it's good to have a knife like this. And this is also a great knife for if you're like on a horse, because it's very light, and which is another thing that makes it good for urban EDC, is it's very light. But if you're riding around on horseback, it's a nice knife to have on you. It's pretty lightweight. Another thing that's great is these handles are actually really great for a country carry, I guess we'll call it. And that this FRN, these are FRN scales, which, you know, you say what you will, whatever. These scales clean up a lot easier than G10. You know, let's say or other handle materials besides maybe, you know, titanium, aluminum, but, you know, you're outside, you're in the barn, and you take out your knife, you've got to cut a hay string, you know, you drop your knife and it lands right in the middle of a cow pie. That sucks. That really sucks. But this knife cleans up really nicely. Just take it, squirt some water over it, and yes, D2 blade, so you be a little bit careful. Dry off the blade real good if you're going to do that. But, I mean, have you ever dropped micarta in a big heap of dung? It's not fun. That's a mess. That's a mess. And even you know, G10, like here on the PM2, you know, it's got this kind of coarser texture. Yeah, it's hard to clean off. But this, you know, even though it's textured the way it is, I mean, the gaps between the texturing is really big, and it does wash off very, very nice. So that's awesome. Another thing, the colors are really good. Again, these knives all come in pretty bright colors, as far as I know. Most of the ones I saw were very bright colors, whether it's the backspacer or the handle scales. You drop this, it lands in a cow pie, or it falls under some straw, or just, you know, in the dirt and you can't find it, it's under a bush or something. It's very bright, it'll be easier to see. Another thing too, actually, that I really appreciate is that it has internal stop pins. You can see it right in there. And that's something that I like, both from, I don't know, I just like the aesthetics of an internal stop pin. It's just a lot cooler to me. But also it does add a little bit in strength. So that's great to have. D2, very, very tough steel, holds an edge for a long time. And actually, the D2 that they've used here seems to be a very, very good D2. It's held its edge very, very nicely. And we've got some fingerprints and gunk and stuff on this blade. Bye-bye. Get down there a little bit. Yeah, good enough. But anyways, great knife if you're going to be in a dirty environment. And, you know, even, you know, it's crazy how much dirt and crap and stuff just gets down in your pockets when you're out and about. You know, all the dust gets kicked up if you're pushing cows, or, you know, you're around four-wheelers or something. A bunch of crud gets down in your pockets. But this knife here, you know, because it's on washers, it won't get gummed up that much. Even if if you're not using it during a windstorm, sometimes stuff gets in your pockets. And this knife, washers are very resilient to dust and stuff, and so it keeps it out really nice. So again, this is not a hard use knife like the like the Cold Steel 4 Max, which, by the way, I did a video recently that'll be published. By the time this video comes out, the Cold Steel video will have been out for quite a while, but did video chopped through a tree with that thing. Anyways, this is a great dirty use knife. Great dirty use knife. And I think, you know, there are other great dirty use knives out there. I consider the Rat 1 to be a fantastic dirty use knife because, again, it's on, you know, washers. It's got FRN, but this stuff, the texturing on this might be a little bit harder to clean off than this stuff, but maybe not. Actually, it's pretty smooth. Heck, even the Cold Steel Code 4, I consider this to be a dirty use knife that can also kind of punch up there into the hard use world. Get these guys all out of here. Heck, this guy would be kind of a dirty use knife, but micarta again. Especially this stuff if it's not polished micarta. But yeah, I think this is a knife for everyone. Everyone. Whether you're in an urban environment, whether you're out on a farm, out in the country, this is a great knife to have. And as such, actually, let's just roll right into my final opinion. Well, no, we can't roll into my final opinions. Scratch that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about what I don't like with this guy. So one thing, the clip, it could be better. Something I noticed about the clip, I don't really like this big hole in it. This hole would catch on stuff. You know, sometimes pocket clips, you know, they'll catch on things. I found that stuff was catching in this clip all the time, so not a big fan of that. I mean, the clip works okay. It's not the best clip, but it's not the worst. And it has this, you know, 3-hole pattern that you can, you know, find probably a billion aftermarket clips for. It is reversible, by the way, which is good. That adds again to this being a good knife for just about everyone. Makes it a little bit more accessible to lefties. Another thing, if you're wearing gloves, this isn't the easiest knife to flip. Which, if you're wearing gloves, there are very few flipper knives that are good at that. You know, to be fair, if you're wearing gloves, thumb studs are a much better choice, or, you know, thumb holes are also very nice. But that is something I have to point out. Another thing, centering is not perfect. It kind of almost looks perfect on camera, but no, it's very slightly off. Very, very slightly towards the show side. So there is that. Another thing, D2 steel, a little bit more prone to rust. So that's, you know, that might be a determining factor for some people trying to carry this. But D2 is a good steel. Another thing right here is actually kind of sharp. The plastic, as you can see, you have these inset liners on both sides, but they're very heavily skeletonized. But right here, the inside of this FRN is a little bit sharp. And if you're really bearing down on this knife, yeah, it can get a little bit pinchy and just not great. The lanyard hole, I could do without, but some people are really going to like it. And they did do, as far as lanyard holes go, excuse me, it didn't take priority over the clip, really. And, you know, it's kind of out of the way. And it's in the back spacer, so if you have your paracord in there, it won't be, you know, it's got plenty of room to be in here, so it's not, like, bunched up or whatever. So, really, really nice there. That's about it, what I don't like. So, let's go into what my final conclusions on this knife are. And my final conclusions are very positive. This is a fantastic knife. This is a great knife, and actually, this is going to be a knife that I recommend to more people than just about any other knife. You know, this is, in terms of recommendability, this is right up there with the Rats. You know, I think the Rats are another knife that are good for everyone. You know, whether it's the Rat 1 or the Rat 2. But this is a knife that I am thoroughly impressed with. Thoroughly impressed with. The performance is great, and I don't know. I just think they did it really well. You know, a D2 FRN knife, there's a bunch of those, but this one I really think stands out in a crowd, and I really appreciate that. And this is going to be it from me. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.